Let's be honest, summer hasn't gone well for Putin. His epic offensive on Sumy ended up liberating tens of thousands of Russians from life. Instead of breaking through the Ukrainian front, Putin got a painting from the governor of Belgorod region with the inscription "Belgorod does not surrender."
Our border residents have had to endure some really tough times. One of the girls is an artist. She started painting these pictures on fragments of S-400 missiles.
This is the body. This is the cover. This is the cover. That's absolutely right. This is the cover. When the missile launches, these fall off, and it's kind of become a symbol. On one hand, it's what protects us, and on the other, it's hope, not just hope, but a certainty of an imminent victory, something each of us feels deep inside.
This is just shameful.
The would-be conqueror boy got slapped in the face with panties and had his international ambitions trampled on. Putin will never forget this summer. He'll remember it as the most disgraceful period of his life. We've put together a ranking of the Kremlin Führer's biggest humiliations in recent times.
Everything will be just the way we like it.
For years, an image was built up of Putin as a fearless macho man who lifted Russia off its knees and restored its superpower status. Well, at least in the fevered imagination of Russians.
Hooray!
That's why parades for Putin aren't just about showcasing the military-industrial complex or putting on a patriotic show. They're literally a display of his personal ego, a symbol of his absolute power and strength. With these parades, Putin shows both his own lackeys and foreigners that he's still got it. For May 9th, Putin even begged Xi Jinping to come, so that Xi's broad chest could shield the red square spectacle from Ukrainian strikes.
Comrades, soldiers, and sailors, sergeants and petty officers, warrant officers and ensigns, comrades officers, generals, and admirals, I salute you all.
Who are all these people?
Another event no less important for Putin is Navy Day. It's no secret that the Pale Toadstool associates himself with Peter the Great, though, to be honest, on stilts. The naval parade used to be held every year on a grand scale. At first, it was in Crimea, but for obvious reasons, showing off military might there became dangerous for the military might itself. So the event was moved far away, into the swamps. But even there, Ukrainian drones managed to reach.
You guys are such a pain. Bastard. That's the sixth one flying over the house already.
This summer, the Führer was forced for the first time to cancel the Navy parade in his native Perebrikoburg. This isn't just humiliation, it's humiliation in a particularly twisted form. Instead of a grand parade of ships, Putin congratulated the sailors on this sad holiday somewhere in an alleyway.
Prison arms, now!
Comrade Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation. The honor guard is assembled in your honor.
They literally met somewhere behind the garages. Greatness is radiating from every piss-soaked corner. Through the mouth of his mustachioed loudspeaker Peskov, Putin openly admitted that the parade was canceled due to the threat of Ukrainian strikes.
Thank you. So unexpected and pleasant, very pleasant.
What really finished off the dwarf Peter the Great was the news that the flagship of the Russian fleet, Admiral Kuznetsov, is going to be scrapped for metal. The only Russian aircraft carrier was under repair for 7 years. They poured in billions, but still couldn't restore it. It turned out that under Putin, Russia reached such greatness that it forgot how to repair ships.
A fire broke out on the aircraft-carrying cruiser Admiral Kuznetsov in Murmansk. According to TASS, the Russian Navy's aircraft-carrying cruiser Admiral Kuznetsov caught fire during repair work being carried out in a dock in Murmansk.
Against this backdrop, even his own slaves, that is, soldiers of the Russian army, have started openly criticizing the Supreme Commander-in-Chief. Putin has lost so much authority that even the most powerless beings on the planet have started to humiliate him like some washed-up bum.
What are you doing to us, huh? Do you want there to be no men left at all in this country? When are you, who's over 70 and calls himself president, going to put an end to all this? Do you want to seize even more regions? Do we even need them?
The challenge of humiliating the Kremlin gnome has been picked up in the West too. European and American politicians openly mock Putin and consider him a loser, in fact, the biggest loser on earth. The president of Finland, Stubb, whose country was recently neutral, called the so-called geopolitical genius a strategic fool and a military failure because all his goals in Ukraine have backfired. Ukraine will become a member of the EU and NATO.
The objectives will be achieved. We insist on what are our legitimate demands, namely ensuring our security. No drawing Ukraine into NATO, no NATO expansion at all. It has already expanded right up to our borders, despite all the promises and agreements that were made.
Idiot? Can't I dance?
American senators are basically competing in mockery. Lindsey Graham promised to kick Putin's ass.
And Putin, your turn is coming. Donald Trump is the Scotty Scheffler of American politics and foreign diplomacy, and he's going to kick your ass.
Senator Kennedy was even less diplomatic. He called Russia a backward country and suggested choking Putin until he feels pain and gives up.
After all, dealing with Putin is just like dealing with any other tyrant. It's like hand-feeding a shark. You can't make a deal with them. You have to make them feel pain. When you're dealing with a tyrant like Putin and trying to get him to the negotiating table, you have to pin him to the ground and choke him.
Remember, there was a time when Putin was actually respected and feared. People saw him not as expired cottage cheese, but as a president. All the crazy stuff happening in Russia was justified by saying that at least the world respects her. The Vatniks would poison themselves with bootleg vodka in their kitchens and feel proud of Mother Russia and Putin, who really showed everyone who's boss.
Today, I'll keep drinking. Tomorrow too. But on Monday, I'll start working out. I'll get into sports.
Now, that show them who's boss attitude is shriveled up to an embarrassing size. It's gotten to the point where Putin is internationally wanted and is afraid to leave Russia because he might end up in a holding cell. He recently got scared to fly to Brazil for the BRICS summit. Now that's what I call global recognition. Keep it up.
We, don't see eye to eye with Brazil on the Venezuela issue.
With the West, it's all clear. After Ukraine, they quickly jumped on the trend of humiliating the bald hero from that fan song. Putin has sunk so low that he's now being bullied even in the post-Soviet space, and what used to be Russia's sphere of interest and influence. In places where, not so long ago, Putin's authority was unquestionable. But now, the once talented geostrategist, after his dizzying multi-move schemes, has started losing his closest allies one by one. The headliners in Putin's humiliation have been Azerbaijan and Armenia. In response to the repressions against Azerbaijanis and Moscow's refusal to take responsibility for the downed passenger plane, Baku has started to go after the Russian world with everything they've got.
I once had the distinct opportunity to answer a very important question from a representative of Ukraine at a significant event a few years ago, and the question was pretty much exactly the same. And my answer won't be any different from what I said back then, and I truly think it resonates with the aspirations of the Ukrainian people. Never, ever agree to occupation.
Russia, aside from the howling of its propagandists, couldn't respond to Azerbaijan with anything else. The official Kremlin just bleated uncertainly, "Let's make peace," and then fell silent. Putin has basically disappeared and isn't commenting on the conflict at all. The thing is, Russia doesn't have any power, neither military nor economic, to stand up to Baku. All of that has vanished somewhere, and without a trace.
We have been under occupation. Authorities are gliders, puppets who have seized resources, land, siphoning off financial assets. We know $1 trillion has been taken out of the country, including a huge amount right before the special military operation. That hasn't changed. But everything is still in place, and with those frozen funds, weapons paid for, sent to the Ukrainian armed forces, killing our soldiers.
Armenia has basically done a tap dance on the judoka's ego. What Yerevan has done is now even being called by the Z-Patriots the biggest humiliation of Russia in 200 years. Armenia is preparing an agreement with Azerbaijan and the US to create the Zangezur corridor, which will connect the two parts of Azerbaijan. It's already being called the Trump Bridge. And do you know why? Because Armenia is leasing part of its territory to the US. The transport corridor will be managed by a private American company under the protection of private American military contractors. In other words, NATO troops will be present in a CSTO member country. Checkmate to the Kremlin's lame horse. Putin is honestly the worst ruler in Russia's history. No one has ever been walked over like this before. Even under the drunkard Yeltsin, Russia still kept its influence in the Caucasus.
Exactly day for day, hour for hour, precisely mirroring our own experiences, just like us, in every single aspect and moment.
After the Caucasus, the Russian world started to crumble in other neighboring countries as well. In Uzbekistan, they began to track down and prosecute mercenaries who fought for Russia against Ukraine. Not long ago, it was hard to even imagine something like that. Today, Uzbekistan has started actively protecting its citizens who are being persecuted in Russia based on their ethnicity. People are no longer turning a blind eye to Russian fascism. It's obvious now that it's impossible to build good neighborly and mutually beneficial relations with Imperial Russia. That's why Uzbekistan has shifted its focus toward China. Soon, the only thing left of Moscow's influence, there will be a faint whiff of booze coming from the Russian embassy.
Here's Maria Zakharova, who, frankly, doesn't really like Jews and can't stand Israel, and she doesn't exactly hide it. Another one who drinks heavily.
And to top it all off, Putin's potato-loving buddy Lukashenko poured some more humiliation into his bowl. Grigory came out to the press and called on Putin to stop the war. Lukashenko basically supported the Ukrainian peace plan, a missile and drone ceasefire, and a long-term halt to hostilities.
The second step is to reach 50 days to stop the shooting altogether and start negotiating a final peace. Who the hell knows what kind of war this is, but at least people shouldn't be dying.
Now that's a plot twist. Either the Americans had a really successful visit with him, or the Epureshka is just cleverly squeezing Putin for money to cover the budget deficit. Like, if you don't pay up, I'll switch sides in a heartbeat, just like I've done before.
We intercepted this conversation. No matter how much you laugh, it's a real conversation.
Putin is the main villain and the biggest loser of the 21st century. And the greatest disgrace to Russia in its entire history.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.